Are you an investigative professional? Did you know you can find the best private investigator resources using investigatorstoolbox.com? This resource community was built exclusively for licensed investigators and investigative professionals. You can network directly with members, educate yourself through free webinars and blogs, and even create your own customizable research library. Membership starts for as little as 49 cents a day. Download the Investigator's Toolbox app or visit our webpage at www.investigators-toolbox.com.
You guys have been hearing for a long time about how much I love Crosstracks, but now you're going to hear from somebody else. So we got George Gerges here. George is a member and a user of Crosstracks. George, tell me real quickly what you love about Crosstracks.
The simplicity of using it and the ability to customize everything that you could do with Crosstracks is awesome. It actually allowed me to take the way that I do my business and implement it into their system. And not only am I able to manage 10 or 15 cases, I'm able to manage 50 to 100 cases with the same effort.
Fantastic. So Crosstracks, the case management system, they are SOC 2 certified. Basically, that's an encryption, really an upgrade. They're the only ones out there that are doing it. So please support this great sponsor that supports our show. Check them out. The links are in the show notes. Crosstracks, if you're an investigator, you should be using them today.
Are you an investigative professional with an international problem you can't solve? Conflict International has the knowledge and relationships to jump in for you. We compensate investigators for referring cases to our office. Contact us today for details. Conflict International uses insight, intelligence, investigation, risk management, and strategic solutions to solve problems troubling individuals and companies of all kinds, anywhere around the world. Whether you're planning to hire a person to a position of trust, carry out due diligence on a company, trace hidden assets, or require skilled boots on the ground, Conflict International investigators can seamlessly pursue a case across borders, offering a truly global solution. Find out about our extensive range of services at conflictinternational.com. Conflict International, global reach, international knowledge. Welcome to PI Perspectives. This week, Skopenow's Dean Cornelison returns to give us some updates on the platform. Skopenow has taken some real jumps forward this year, and they're getting ready to release version 4.0. So Dean comes from an investigator background and has some great insight. Please welcome Dean and your host, private investigator Matt Spaier.
And welcome everyone to this week's episode of PI Perspectives. This is Matt Spaier, your host. I'm really excited to welcome back an old friend, someone we haven't talked to in probably almost a year, I think, give or take. But I want to welcome Dean Cornelison back to the program. Dean's over at Skopenow, and we're going to get an update on Skopenow to see what's going on. So, Dean, how are you?
Good to see you. Thanks for having me back. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So I'm New York time. I think you're California time. Is that right?
I am, but I am working your time zone, so I'm on your time.
You are
so
a road
to speak.
warrior.
There you go.
Definitely. So great to see you, man, and chat with you. Before we started recording, we were doing a little bit of a catch up, and you've kind of assumed a new role over at Skopenow. So tell me a little bit about what you've been up to the last year.
Yeah, I was initially hired on a little bit over a year ago as a solutions architect in the insurance space, and roughly about a year, I was kind of interested in kind of going some other directions. Kind of Rolling Stone type of guy. I like to stay, doing different things, and I actually, wanted to get back into investigations, and the open source analyst position with a little bit of software QA and some product involvement was interesting, something new, so I've jumped over to that and learning software and user needs and just any number of other things. I've heard it from the customer side. Now I get to see the back end,
sure.
Front end, back end, and it's been an eye opener. Very interesting to see how things get made and the involved process that includes. So it's been great. Every day is different. It's been real enjoyable. So I love doing the new new gig. It's great,
Right.
great stuff.
Right. And I think there's also a misnomer as to what Skopenow is and what it's become, because it started off as something years ago. I mean, I was a beta customer with you guys, and just to see how it's kind of tweaked itself a little bit and changed its direction on what it's doing. So for those who aren't familiar with Skopenow, who you guys are and what you do, why don't you break it down real simple for me?
Yeah, I mean, Skopenow basically, the initial kind of product is our Workbench platform, and that's basically an investigator enablement tool, search engine. And it takes inputs and information from users, customers, investigators across a number of different industries and fields, and helps them basically locate social media, open source, court records, VIN information. It does a number of different things, provides you the ability to iterate along the way, basically expand the search, and then you'll be able to self-drive and curate your own report, how you want it along the way, and then it'll be captured with the meta and hash data. So if you're in a legal environment, you've got a court-ready document ready to go. So that's kind of the baseline product for the company. We've expanded into basically a business area with business records, Secretary of State, Visipedia, open corporates. So those data sets are really sought after by a number of entities. Yeah. Connecting the dots, doing investigations, due diligence, looking at shell corporations, trying to peel the onion back and see who you're dealing with primarily, and then the connection points. On the Workbench was, it's basically a person search. Now we've added that business search to it. But beyond that, I mean, it's for a while now we've had person to associate search and then business to associate search. And we're just getting started. So yeah, it's been very good. Seeing good growth, good innovation on the platform. I think we're seeing really good responses from. I see them every day in our chat on people who have an interest in the platform and want to get on. And it's been great seeing that interest level.
Yeah, that relational data pointing, where you can connect, people together is such a game changer. And you guys were kind of like in the forefront of bringing that out. And you see some of the other data providers that are on board with it, but it's like I think you guys like perfected it first. So.
Yeah, the ability to take the social media data sets and put them into a scenario where you can compare them for connections or, a nexus point between two individuals, a business and a person. We're going to be rolling out some additional functionality where you're going to be able to do connections in a visual way with, I believe, up to 10 people coming very soon. Don't have a specific date on that, but it's going to be rolling out with some of the other features we're going to be, kind of putting out here pretty quickly. So 4.0 grid. So yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that after the break. We'll take that shortly, but we're going to give like a little sneak peek. Can't talk too much about it, but we'll give a couple of breadcrumbs there to get folks excited on 4.0. Before we take a break, though, like, what do you think are some of the misnomers or just some of the misunderstandings about Skopenow and the things that you can do? Because you guys have been around 2016, 2017, maybe.
Yeah.
And people, you see it in the message groups all the time. People say like, I'm trying to test out Skopenow, or what are your thoughts on Skopenow? I'm thinking of giving a shot. I have my own opinion on that, but you would, as someone who works there, what do you think are some of the things that are out there that people don't realize or may not know about the product?
Well, I started out as a user in the SIU analytical space, trying to visualize social media data sets. I think we're getting there, so it's becoming a little bit more robust, but the ability for people to use the platform, save time, hit just numerous websites to pull information back quickly in a almost an automated way. You're basically providing us inputs. And I'd say one of the biggest things is we get compared to, Google or, Accurate, and we are definitely a standalone product. We do something completely different. And so it's, and there's a lot of, there's some complexity there on what we do. And it's not always well understood, but we try to educate people on what we're doing as much as we can. We're very transparent. I mean, talking about the Workbench, our data is sourced in the platform as it comes in. You'll see where it comes from. We provide that information. It's going to be listed off in your investigation report. So there's no hiding the ball. I mean, we're basically putting information out there. One of the things I would say is, we're not capturing driver's license or a social security number. So, we're not a data broker. We get compared to that a lot, and that's always, to me, is a little bit unfair, because we're just, we're a lot more than that, and we're less than that at the same time. Because, if you have an understanding of data brokers, they're they kind of handle another niche. But we take pieces and parts and basically create something, I think, more impactful for customers and investigators. So, that's my take on it, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I always preach, like when using these databases, different search engines, like you start, like I use 3, right? 3 is a minimum for me, and I try and make sure they're all saying the same stuff, but getting that pedigree information and then plugging it into Skopenow, it's really going to open up a big picture as to who that person is and what they look like, what they live like online, right? And as we all move into the metaverse, right? Everyone's going to be living their life online. Tools like Skopenow are on the forefront. And, one of the things I do appreciate about the product and knowing, the principles here involved is that commitment to always upgrade the product and do new things, and that R&D that goes into it is great. And you guys are working on getting out 4.0, and we're going to talk a little further about that after the break. But it's very refreshing to see that, and being able to use those tools. And I think one of the other things too, people, as investigators, we talk about price points and, is it worth the money to do it? And my response to that is, who cares how much it costs? You should be building all that into your price anyways, right? So whatever you're hired to do a particular task, if you're not line iteming database costs, you're not billing properly. Right. There's that hourly that we all charge and our expertise in the domain knowledge and all that, but there should be a separate line item for databases. And if you're not doing that, you're not doing it properly, because you should take into account what your subscription fees are for all these services. And, one of the things that I always say about Skopenow, it is not like those data broker companies that are there. It's different. It's something that should be like in addition to. If you're looking for that profile of what somebody looks like online, or the relational, how does this person know that person? Like, this should be a tool that you're using, and the cost should be built into what you're charging, right? And that's the way.
Right. And it goes beyond that when you're able to put in kind of curated inputs, keywords, and use behaviors.
Yeah,
you're going to the next level beyond inputs that you would give to a data broker, and go out and find that information in open source and social media. So it's well beyond that. You're getting so much more. There's so much more value add, and then the issue is efficiency, time. I mean, you're able to do things very quickly. If you took the equivalent time and searched all the sites that we do for you very quickly, it would take you hours and hours to do the manual searches.
Yeah.
So,
and you always have the remove button, right? You can always remove things that even when it comes back, it's not what you're looking for.
Yeah. I always tell people, cast the widest net and just filter down.
You got to get rid of the white noise. Yep.
And, and the fact of the matter is, in the platform, if you're a user, we don't delete anything. It's always in the hidden items area. So you're always, even if you delete something, it's still there. That's the beauty of it. So
search is what it is, and you just hone it down, and you white label your reports too, which is cool. You just
we have new functions with bookmarking. We've got toggle on, toggle off. So you're able to really curate what you want to see. You get right to the nuts and bolts, and you could add. That's what I used to do as an SIU person. I create a couple different reports, some with metadata, some without. Nowadays, I'd have probably a report with bookmarks and maybe some toggles if I didn't need specific areas. So, you have full control as a user to basically curate everything, and that's just on the workbench. There's even more functionality in the report area. Yeah. So, it's great.
You're very fancy, Dean. I love you.
I do what I can.
There you go. So this is a good point to take a break. So we're going to step out and probably hear a message from Skopenow if we haven't heard one already, and some of the other sponsors on there. So everybody sit tight, and we will be right back. I want to talk to everybody today about Skopenow.com. Skopenow has been a big-time sponsor of this program for quite some time, and I just love their service. I've been using them since the beginning. I'm one of their beta customers, and it's been so awesome to see them grow into the business that they are today, and just how they just keep reinventing themselves and pushing themselves to get more and more information. What it comes down to is Skopenow is a tool that you definitely need to use if you do social media investigations, any internet research, and really spending less time digging around and looking for information. I think is one of the best points of how Skopenow can help you. Their AI platform, their analytics are amazing. You really get an idea of what you need. You're reducing the time, you're reducing the manpower that you're spending on doing this research, because they're essentially doing it for you, and they're doing it correctly, which is most important. One of the new things that they're actually offering is this flagging system where you can flag behaviors and really highlight and look out for fraud. If you're doing a lot of fraud research, this is a fantastic tool, and you can set up alerts. So you have particular people that you're looking at, you can actually set up alerts to get notifications when the criteria that you set up is actually is flagged and goes off. It's really, really amazing. And their relationship and association analytics are top notch, really cutting edge and really, really cool. When they brought that out on version 3, it was a game changer. I mean, really being able to see how people interact together and having that relationship, analysis is really, really something that's cool. One of the other things about being involved with Skopenow is their ability to offer webinars. Their team is cutting edge on putting together and getting out really, really great content. If you're a member of Skopenow, if you know who they are, you've seen them around on LinkedIn, you'll know that they're constantly doing webinars on these new websites that are coming out, and they're really staying on top of it. And don't forget, any reports that you generate, you can actually white label those reports and put your own logos on and really make them look professional, which could equate to more billing for you as well. So check them out today. It's www.skopenow.com. They're a great, great company. They should be one of the tools in your toolbox, along with whatever kind of search engines you do. You need to make sure that Skopenow is a part of that suite. Skopenow.com.
Check out the PI Institute of Education at piinstitute.com. Since 1989, Kelly Riddle has been teaching on subjects such as surveillance, nursing home investigations, insurance fraud, domestic investigations, hidden assets, and accident scene investigations. The PI Institute of Education is a featured learning partner in the investigatorstoolbox.com. So check out the free content on the site, then visit the Institute for more great savings on additional classes.
Don't let asset investigations become a hassle for you. Let the professionals at J.T. Palmer & Associates, Inc. get you the information you need. We are a team of research specialists dedicated to providing you the intelligence that you're unable to locate through public databases. We have national and international resources available to provide accurate results to assist you in your asset investigations, and in a timely manner. We work tirelessly to uncover exactly what collectible assets someone has. Whether you're investigating a business or an individual, our dedicated research team employs a range of techniques to bring the investigation to a conclusion. All information developed over the course of these searches is obtained in an ethical, legal, honest, professional manner. When you need asset investigations done right, turn to J.T. Palmer and Associates. You can contact our team by visiting our website at jtpalmerassociates.com or call 800-808-0078.
Check out the latest issue of PI Magazine, available online or via hard copy. Visit pimagazine.com to learn more.
And welcome back to PI Perspectives. This is Matt Spaier, your host. I'm here with Dean Cornelison from Skopenow. Dean, welcome back to the program.
Thanks, Matt. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, man. So it's so great catching up, man. And I really like talking about Skopenow because I've been using it for so long, and it's just seeing how it's gotten to where it's at and the things that are planned in the future. I don't really have those meetings anymore that I used to have with Rob Douglas, the CEO of the company. We used to have kind of pick my brain and, hey, what would be good for you? Like, that was years ago. He's so far beyond me now with what you guys are doing, and it's great. It's exciting. Now I just talk to him about food. We don't even talk about work. It's all about.
There you go. Yeah, go to the important stuff, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's Rob's the reason I'm here. Basically, I worked with him, just giving him ideas, kind of one of those complaining customers. Hey man, how come you don't have this on the platform? And that's kind of how it started, because I saw what it could be many years ago, and I was like, hey, this has got some huge potential in the investigation space. And he definitely ran with that ball for sure. Yeah. There's all kinds of touchdowns being scored there.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, chatting with you, we're both in New York. Our offices are not far from one another. So like there were lunches, right? So I'm sitting there, we're eating lunch because, it's a food centric relationship Rob and I have. Hey, what would you like to see in here? What do you think about this? I had an idea about doing this one day. Would you, is that something you can see yourself paying money for? Like, these were all the scenarios that we were discussing. So it was good. So let's jump into a little bit about 4.0. I know it's a bit early for you to have the big reveal on this, but tell me some of the ideas or some of the concepts here that
I think one of the biggest things on 4.0 is Grid. Grid's a situational awareness feature that's coming up. That's going to be huge. Think about all of the data sets that are out there you can tap into and put it into a UI and over time and geography in a very quick way. You can look at a lot of events and actions that are going on through a lot of the data feeds that are out there now online. So you can do that in a real-time scenario. You can do that in an archive scenario. So the investigation angles and the ability to address exposures and threats. If you're able to see things happening in real time or close to real time, or even if you needed to do a kind of a retrospective investigation, you're going to have that capability going forward with a lot of different data sets. So it's pretty exciting. Don't have a release date for you, but it's forthcoming. But very excited about that, and kind of part and parcel to some of the other components of 4.0 besides Grid. We're going to have some capability on the platform to do some really good marketplace investigations with a number of marketplace sites, and do investigations into theft or any number of other areas where people are looking for things online that are being sold, or look at people who are selling things. That's people are earning an income off of that, and people doing all kinds of things. In the PI space, a lot of the activity surrounds, what are people doing? Well, it's also interesting to see what people are selling. How does that lead? Where does that lead? Retail, organized retail crime scenarios. Any type of investigation where people are getting their hands on stuff. Maybe you've got freight theft, any number of things. So you've got that capability to look at information, homeowners claims, personal property losses. So there's a lot of different capabilities there. So that's really kind of an exciting thing that we've got going on, kind of going forward. But really looking forward to having folks take a look at. I've seen some early examples of what grid's going to look like, and think like a control center. Like you've got the capability to kind of have like this control center where you're looking at everything in a very a kind of all in one UI scenario. You're able to kind of just get a giant picture 360 24/7 of the data feeds that you're interested in. So I think that's going to be a huge game player for a lot of different people in a lot of different industries. So really looking forward to rolling that out going forward. So definitely.
Yeah. I mean, like one of the things that I always used to like to do was like when I have these big accidents in New York City, being able to have that grid type scenario where, I can go back and look at archives of people that are posting about things. Like you're finding direct eyewitnesses that don't end up in reports because people see something, they post about it, and then they go back to work. And by the time law enforcement gets there, they're gone. So nobody knows
exactly
people exist, right? So I hit a bunch of home runs doing that, very early on. I'm talking 4 or 5 years ago, where there was technology, that it was there and then it wasn't there, right? It was on and then they turned it off. So it's great to see you guys being able to do some sort of that, bring it back, because it's such a useful tool. You talk about real-time, threat management, but there's also a market for, going back and looking at historical information, especially, leading around to events, events
exactly
that have taken place, having that event marker and seeing what kind of traffic online is there regarding that event. I mean, that's, it's a game changer if you can get that information.
Exactly. There's so many different ways to look at the space that you have to investigate in. It's almost a creative endeavor to figure out, okay, think of 20 to 50 ways that I can get information out of this event. How can I find people to help me or information to help me? And I think that's what the platform's gonna, and Grid's gonna help people kind of accomplish, is kind of think differently in a 3D kind of maybe satellite view, just several different views to take a look at how's the information coming in and how should you deal with it. It'll be interesting to see what people actually do with the capability. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, I've had conversations with loss prevention guys or people that are doing security for big stadiums, and where there's massive amounts of people, and monitoring traffic online as to what's going on. And like they're finding out that there's some drunken guy in section 110 that's harassing everybody. It's like, oh, okay, send somebody over to go get rid of this guy.
Exactly. Or you could have something set up for alerts and off of AI and some semantic or keyword triggers, and you're alerted. You're off to the races. You can take action. It's a game changer. I mean, the ability to ingest kind of real-time social media data is photographs and posts.
Yeah.
That's what's so interesting about social media now, is most breaking news, you see it on social media before you ever see it on any type of network. It could be days later.
I remember we were doing some jury research, and this was years ago, probably 3 years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It's definitely before COVID. And we were monitoring the jurors, with their social media feeds to see if they were discussing the case, because they're not supposed to do that, and it's like, I remember trying to sell the attorneys on the idea of that. And they're like, whoa, hold on. Like, what if I like that juror? What if that was somebody that I picked specifically to be on my panel? I don't want to throw them out. And if they're talking about it, I got a duty to alert the court. Like, I have a responsibility if I have knowledge that they're doing something they're not supposed to be doing. It's like, I think I'm not so crazy about knowing about what they're doing. So I was like, that's a fair point. Right? You don't lose your good person, right?
It's a double-edged sword there. Different ways to look at it, I suppose. Of course, you don't want to, if you have an appealable scenario going on because you've got somebody who's sideways, you might be heading something off at the pass. It's going to be a problem the future. I mean, I think what research is on the platform is a huge thing for monitoring what people are doing, and even on, my feeling is I was out of the claims game long ago, but the pre-surveillance capabilities of Skopenow products is just, you don't even have to fire up the investigator in the field and have them get their camera going before you just jump on the platform and see what's happening. Because I've seen example after example where people were sending investigators out on the wrong day, and if they had just checked social media, they would have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars. So yeah, it's crazy.
If they're checking in every morning at 8 a.m. at Dunkin' Donuts, here for my morning coffee. It's just
people are definitely pattern based. That's for sure. So
habit, yes.
Yeah. Use the tools that are out there. I mean, try to get the most efficient technological solution you can find, and and if it works for you, that's going to be the best way to go in a lot of ways. So.
Yeah, and as a business owner of an investigation company, and understanding that there are tools that are out there that can help you do that pre-investigative and justify the cost for doing it and building it in. And again, you should be building in a cost for databases like that. That's part of the package of what you offer. Like, that should be done when you're selling these services. It should be that sort of pre-investigative work leading into it. I think folks are finally starting to understand that it's not just, okay, so you're going to start at 8 a.m. tomorrow till 6 p.m. and you're just going to sit in your car and hopefully, Joe Jones will walk out of the apartment or whatever. No, there's a whole that needs to go into it, a whole workup, and having tools like Skopenow to do that are game changers. It really can set yourself aside from somebody else, right?
Yeah, I think you can also, potentially save your client, costs, because you're doing something that's going to be a little bit more efficient, filtered, and focused, and it's going to get the results that they need without, breaking the bank for somebody.
Dean, so that's like an insurance guy. Stop it, buddy.
Yeah. My thing is I always appreciated that, and that to me was a return business scenario. You're looking out for the customer, you're looking out for yourself in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah,
so
of course.
Yeah. So that goodwill goes a long way.
It really does, especially when you're dealing with a panel and like, all right, who am I going to use this time for this stuff? Like,
yes.
I don't even live in that world. I had a very distasteful experience with that very early on in my career, and I was like, you know what, I'm not built for this. So I made the decision, plaintiff only, and 18 years later, that's what I'm doing. So I sleep at night.
I see the wisdom of both sides, and I've actually run into people who do both. So it's kind of interesting. Everybody's got to. It's how you're built, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying. You're wearing black. I'm wearing white. That's all I'm saying. Like, I'm in a white background. You're in a dark background. We're kind of twins, bald with beards and all this. And
there you go.
I'm on the side.
Little yin and yang happening up in here.
There we go.
Yeah, no, I get you.
I'm just saying, man.
Yeah. And it's funny. A lot of vendors, I always thought experts and attorneys were, the ones I employed. If they can handle both sides of a case,
yeah.
I always felt that was probably somebody who was a little bit more skilled. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it backfire too, right? So I understand where you're coming from, and I've gotten grilled while testifying, like, why don't you work for defense? And I've told the story before, but I'll say it again. Like, don't ever ask a question you don't know the answer to, right? Because that opens up the door for me to talk about how, this defense attorney asked me to manipulate this evidence, and this one, wanted it shot a certain way to show their theory, but not necessarily the way it was. And the fact that, they wouldn't pay me for 200 days because that was just their policy. Like that kind of stuff. So if you want me to talk about that on the stand, sure. Ask me why I don't work for defense. Sure. I can talk about it as much as you want. And I've seen jurors laugh while I'm saying stuff like that. So yeah, whatever.
The pitfalls are there depending on how it gets handled. That's for sure. So.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I understand the people that do it and why they do it. And some people are really good at it, and not every defense company is like that. I'm just my own personal experience of things that I've dealt with. There are people that make a good living at doing this, and people that approach it the way that you approach it, right? I'm going to save my client some money so I can make them look good. Because at the end of the day, all these companies are publicly traded companies that have boards and have bottom lines, and they get reviewed. How much did you spend on investigations? How were you able to save this? A tool like Skopenow, where there's AI implemented into it, and you're saving time. Like, that's a real deal. That's a big factor in the decision-making process and the review process, right?
Definitely. I mean, you take a demo of the product, and then you do a trial, check it out. The proof is there. I mean, you'll see the efficiency. It really is a user-friendly, kind of intuitive environment. So you can get effective pretty quickly. It doesn't take many searches to get up to speed on stuff, right, depending on your use case. Some people have simpler cases. Some are a little bit more, difficult. But I mean, that's save yourself money, save your client money.
Makes sense.
To get things done faster, so you can actually handle more work. There's 100 different reasons on why the platform is just creates more efficiencies for everyone involved.
So for folks who did want to go check it out and get that trial run on that, how do they find it?
Yeah, they can just navigate to the website, Skopenow.com, and you'll see it all there. I mean, there's a ability to just tap in, make contact with us. My fastest recommendation is using the chat. Go in there. We have live chat individuals. I'm on there now. Yeah. That's one of my features of kind of assisting stuff. Sometimes, not necessarily that I'm talking to people a lot, but assisting the people who are running the chat, because there's issues and questions that come up, technical. So that's the fastest way. What's interesting is for the private investigators, when they come through and they're looking to be, approved on the platform, I was involved in trying to get some of that kind of vetting going on as a process internally. So it's been good.
Let's talk about that, because the vetting process before we wind down here. How does somebody get approved, and this whole different states with different laws and rules. Some don't even have PI licenses requirements anymore. So what does that vetting process look like?
Yeah, I mean, contact us, give us your information as much as you can, and then we've got to take some time to take a look at that information. Not every state has licensing. A lot of most states do, whether that's through the state. Or sometimes in certain jurisdictions, it could be county, city. Some states there's none. So these are case-by-case scenarios. There's no blanket approach. We generally take a look at everybody individually. So, if you've got a PI license, business license, some business formation documents, that's helpful. Even if you don't have a license, if you've got the kind of the outlines of a business going on, even in a non-licensed state, we'll do what we can for you. So I was basically working with a lot of our customer success and customer service folks on that. I'm trying to basically give them some direction and some resources in that area, because it's running licensing through 50 states there's a complexity there.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. So
even that, I mean, internationally, right? So you guys do have international clients as well. So it's not like it's, some of these data providers, I made that mistake. I was overseas and somebody had asked me to look something up, and I jumped on to look something up, and all of a sudden my account was suspended. I was like, whoa, hey, slow down.
There's actually not a lot of coverage, overseas for U.S. based data. I mean, there's some. It just depends. A lot of times there's different providers in other places, and it's definitely a different territory dealing with other regulatory and compliance regimes in other places, for sure.
The only thing I want to say is your avatar on the website is like Darth Vader. So, it's definitely a dark side. If you find Dean on there,
it's got to be the goatee and the shaved head. It's got to be,
Exactly.
So
goes by Anakin sometimes. So no, that's great, man. I love your product. I can't say enough great things about Skopenow and what they've done for my business, and just seeing how it's grown there, and it, always a great thing, man. So I'm excited to see 4.0. I'm sure we'll once it's ready to launch, we'll probably do some sort of quick, hey, come back on and talk about the functions and all that stuff too. So the other thing I want to mention too is Skopenow is a partner with the Investigator's Toolbox. So if you are a member of the Investigator's Toolbox, there are discounts and benefits to using the Skopenow package. I would say go into the site and take a look at it. I believe it's a 10% savings that you get on certain plans that they have. But from day one, Skopenow has partnered up with the Toolbox and is a big supporter of this podcast since day one, and a supporter of the Toolbox and the whole idea of Investigator's Toolbox. So, I can't say enough great things about the product, and how we've kind of helped each other along the way, which is great too. So, Dean, it was great chatting with you. I will let you get back to your Sith ways and whatever it is you're doing on your side. And
I actually identify with the rebels. I'm more of a rebel underdog type of guy, so I kind of approach it from the other side, because I generally feel like the people we generally take a look at are probably more along those lines on the dark side. So,
that's a very Empire driven point that you've had there. We could probably spend another hour debating the merits of the Empire and the Rebel.
There's plenty of people here who would chime in on that. We got lots of sci-fi folks here, so
I'm sure plenty have turned off already. But seriously though, man, thanks for coming on. It was great catching up again, and I know I'll probably chat with you again when it's.
I appreciate you having me on. It's been great. Second time on. Really appreciate being able to kind of highlight what we can do for folks, sure. And looking forward to the future.
Sure.
All around.
So that's Skopenow, Skopenow.com.
Correct.
Check your spelling, folks. Go check out the website, and in the show notes there'll be a link for it too. So, Dean, thanks so much for coming on, and thank you everyone for checking this episode out. And we'll catch everybody next week on the next episode.
Thanks.
Take care.
Hey, thanks to Dean for coming on and giving us a short sneak peek of Skopenow 4.0. A special thanks also goes to Crosstracks, Conflict International, Skopenow, PI Institute of Education, and JT Palmer for sponsoring the show. So please support our great supporters. And I'm sure you've thought about joining Investigator's Toolbox. Well, now's the time to get on board and join the fastest growing digital community for investigative professionals. So use code PIP 201836 to save 10% when you join. If you have a question or a comment about the show, email Matt at matthews@satellitepi.com. You can also find him on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. We want your feedback to bring you the best shows possible. And we'll be back next week with another show. So make sure you tune in and stay safe out there.